Hey friends, Jeffy G here. Do you get excited about new software? I do. Whenever something new comes out, I immediately want to try it out and figure out, is this something I can use for music production or in video? And I typically go out to the internet and see if I can download a free copy, but it gets me quite excited. At the same time, I'm kind of evaluating, do I need it? Is it something that works differently than software I already own? Recently, there was a lot of buzz about Pigments 3.5 update that came out from Arturia. And it's another synth. I have lots of synths already. But at the same time that it came out, I've been doing a lot of investigation into sound design. And I'll admit, I'm not really what you would call a sound design guy. I'm more of a presets kind of guy. And I'm quite committed to Logic. I've been using Logic for more than 20 years. So I know the virtual instruments and synths that are built into Logic. But when Pigments 3.5 came out, I really felt it necessary to investigate, what's all the hype and is it significantly different than Alchemy? Now, I've done other videos covering Alchemy at a very high level. And the first thing that, of course, attracts most people to Alchemy is the fact that there's more than 3,000 presets in there. So you don't have to be a synthesis guru. You don't have to know all the details about the filters and the modulation effects and the different sources. But with Pigments, I was just curious how it compares to Alchemy. Now, I like Arturia, and they're well known for their virtual instruments that mimic classic synths. If you're looking for a Roland Jupiter 8 or a Juno 6 or a DX7 from Yamaha, the virtual instruments from Arturia, they are reasonable emulations and in many cases more powerful than the original. But I didn't own the Arturia Collection V. I do own some Arturia, the Analog Lab software, and I've always been really impressed with that. The other thing Arturia has is hardware. Their keyboards and MIDI controllers are really impressive. They have a great feel to them with semi-weighted keys. They have lots of pads and dials, and they work particularly well with Arturia software. So I had this looming question of Pigments 3.5. Does this new version warrant my attention? And is it a good buy? Now, to understand this video, you really have to get a sense of where I'm coming from. As you can see, I'm on the Arturia website for Pigments. There's some great descriptive information that you can read through and get an idea of how this product is designed to work. But I think most significant is right at the top, is it's being positioned as part of the solution for sound design. And often when you use the term sound design, it can mean a lot of things to different people, but in this context, it's really using the tools of Pigments, a synthesizer, to make your own sounds. I'm clicking on Get a Free Demo, all your personal information. You can download the demo, either for Windows, on a PC, or for Mac. Once it's downloaded, you can open up the package, agree to the terms and conditions of the license agreement, pick the individual parts. In my case, these are the default parts that are checked off. The VST, the AAX, which I probably won't use, comes in as an audio unit. There's some third-party resources, and there's a standalone version of Pigments, which I will probably use. Takes up 1.4 gigabytes of space on your hard drive. Okay, it's been installed. Now if I look in my applications folder, under the Arturia folder, I'll see Pigments. Just going to click on that, start it up, make sure it works. Defaults to core audio. I'm on a new MacBook Pro with the M1 Max chip. Whether you want to use any of your MIDI devices. In my case, I'm using a Novation Launch Key Mark III 49. Here you have a choice of either buying Pigments We're running it in demo mode. The demo is limited to 20 minutes, so it's pretty short. Okay, it looks like I've got sound. It's a good sign. Oh, lots of presets here. Take a long time to go through these. I guess the first thing you notice is that with these presets, there's different types. There's wavetable, there's analog, some samples, and a different group called harmonic. I'll have to investigate exactly what that means. There's a sample, there's an example based on a sample. Right away, you can see that there's basically two engines, engine 1 and engine 2. You can choose a different type for each one. So you could have an analog synth sound in one and a wavetable sound in the other, or a sample. And I think kind of combining samples with traditional analog and wavetable synth sounds is absolutely a great feature. You see the presets are divided into different categories. There's quite a few. Wow, what a long list of bass samples. Jaco Pastorius. I guess that's supposed to be fretless. Brass and winds. Scrolling down to the piano sounds. See, those are both sampled sounds. Emotional piano. Sound effects. Wow, what a long list of sound effects. I don't know where to begin. Looks like in this case you've got two sample sounds. Engine 1 and Engine 2 are both using the sampler. Well, there's an example, Deep Strike, where Engine 1 is a sample and Engine 2 is analog synth. Looks like they have templates. If you're programming your own sound, instead of starting from scratch, you can pull up one of these templates. In this template, Engine 1 is using wavetable, Engine 2 is using an analog sound. This layer in the middle is your modulation layer, and this is one of the things a lot of people seem to like. It's got envelopes, LFO, functions. You can click on any one of these modulation effects. And my understanding is that you can run these modulation effects either sequentially or in parallel, which is kind of cool. It's Logic 10.7.3, and I've got Alchemy loaded as one track. And the reason I have that there is that ultimately I'm going to be comparing the capabilities of Alchemy to what's in Pigments. So to add pigments, I click on the plus. I go to the software instrument group, scroll down to AU Instruments, look for Arturia, there it is. Choose Pigments in stereo, create a new track. It opens up Pigments. Looks like this. Looks like you can control the size of the window here. That's too big. I'm going to leave it that large just so you can see everything. So remember, we're going to be looking at that, but we're also going to be comparing it to Alchemy. Should be interesting. Okay, so we're hearing factory default from Alchemy. Let's go to the Pigments track, turn on record, pick a preset, I'm going to go for one of those sequencing sounds. Hades thunder. Don't want to be hearing that. With the Pigments demo version being only 20 minutes of use, there's not much you can do in that period of time. Where I focused my attention was, I went through some of the presets to evaluate the sound quality, and I was quite impressed. The other thing was I got familiar with the user interface. What are the advantages there? In terms of the technical capabilities or the differences between Pigments and, say, Alchemy, I really didn't have enough time to do that. So instead, I turned to the technical specifications from the website, as well as viewing other YouTube videos that have done a full review of Pigments 3.5. And I'll walk through those now. Here's my comparison between the Arturia Pigments 3.5 capabilities and Alchemy in Logic 10.7. And if you see anything on this list that you think is not right or controversial, or you have questions, feel free to put a comment into the comment section of this YouTube video. I'll be happy to answer your questions and investigate some of your ideas. So I think it's fair to say that Alchemy's been around for a while, and it is a monster of a synth. It incorporates so many concepts and so many capabilities. It's become a big success amongst Logic users, which meant there was an opportunity for another vendor to step in, and Arturia has really done that with Pigments, especially the 3.5 release. The first and maybe the most obvious difference between the two is that Alchemy only runs on Logic on a Mac, whereas Pigments will run on multiple platforms and with many different DAWs. In fact, when you go out to the internet to do some investigative work around Pigments and looking at reviews, you find that most of the people are using Ableton or Cubase or Bitwig or another DAW. And that means that Arturia has a much bigger marketplace for Pigments than Logic. Even though Logic's super popular, the requirement of it being within Logic and on a Mac is somewhat limiting. Point number two is that you can run Pigments as a standalone app,
and it'll work with any DAW. Alchemy doesn't have a standalone mode, only runs on Logic. Pigments is $199, Logic is $199, and Alchemy is just a part of Logic. There's 25 VSTs, 70 effects plugins, and more than 5,000 presets in total. So if you were just to divide the $200 investment in Logic by the number of VSTs and plugins, or just the VSTs, I guess you could argue that the price of Alchemy is about $8. Pigments has 1,200 presets. Alchemy has a little over 3,500. Pigments advertises this boundless modulation layer, and that is one of their strengths. But the modulation layer in Alchemy really has no limits. So I think what they mean by boundless on the Arturia side is that it's highly capable, which is very true. And most importantly, the interface for using those modulations and how you combine them together is very innovative. Number 6, Pigments has 2 oscillator engines, and they could be samples or analog synths or other things. Alchemy has 4, an A, B, C, and a D. There are 10 filters and 3 envelopes in Pigments. There's 3 filters, but per target. So with the 4 engines, 3 filters, you've got 3 times 4, 12 potential filter configurations. There are 3 LFOs in Pigments. There are 16 LFOs per target in Alchemy. Both of them have a randomizer, and both of them let you combine the parts. But in the case of Alchemy, you save those combinations as a preset. So it's a slightly different approach. Number 11, these are just a few things that Alchemy has that Pigments does not. There's a sequencer built into Alchemy, arpeggiator. I mentioned the fact that you can user save modulation combos, LFOs, filters, performances, sequences, and effect. They've taken this idea that any part of Alchemy can be saved as an individual preset and reused. And finally, and maybe not that different, but Alchemy has an XY pad for the performance section. Pigments does not. Here's kind of a summary of my conclusions. If you already own Logic, use Alchemy. It might be the more capable synth. If you have another DAW, not Alchemy, buy Pigments. It's really good, and it's the closest thing to Alchemy that you can buy that runs on Windows. Pigments has a better modern user interface. That's what I found, even though I had only 20 minutes to play around with it. The impression it left me was that Alchemy has been around a long time and needs a bit of a refresh, but Pigments is really taking advantage of a better UI. Arturia products go on sale. It might be possible that you can get Pigments at half price at certain times of the year. Apple's Logic never goes on sale. Pigments' approach to this harmony engine is a new approach to additive partials, so that you can get the same results out of Alchemy, but I think Pigments has gone a step further to say, here's a practical way of using this other harmony engine. Pigments has also a utility engine that's interesting. It's an extra layer that adds a third analog oscillator. So engine 1 and 2 are very specific and flexible. This utility engine is just one more engine where you can add analog. If you find this information useful, and I hope you do, hit the like button and let me know with any comments that you have. But the YouTube algorithm really looks for likes.
Hey, I had a lot of fun making this video. I always do. Whenever there's some new software, music software out there that it looks interesting, I get a big kick out of trying it out and seeing how it integrates into my particular workflow. Of course, the sounds and the capabilities are my focus. Even though I only had the demo mode for 20 minutes, I must admit that I was very impressed with Pigments from Arturia. Now, for me personally, I'm not going to buy it right away. If it goes on sale, I might consider it. But at the moment, I have a lot of expertise with Alchemy within Logic, and I think I'm going to stick with that for a while. If you like this video too, and you want to see more on Logic or more of these third-party apps and synths and capabilities that you might add to your Logic investment, subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button and you'll get notified whenever I release a new video. Thanks, friends. See you next time.